Talk Show.
It's the Daily Talk Show, episode 616.
It's Weekend Banter. We got the Gronks back in the building. Scooter, Derek, and
Peter Shepherd.
Big Pete.
Did you forget his name?
Absolutely
There was
not.
a moment there.
No. I was trying to go to which nickname we call you.
Yeah.
And Peter Shepherd's just your name.
Yeah. Tall Gronk.
Tall Gronk.
Tall Gronk.
Holy shit, it's Bigfoot. All of the above.
This morning, 8 a.m., I was on a Zoom call.
First ever?
Yeah, first ever Zoom call where there was more than one person.
It was great. I saw JJ
in
on
the
Zoom.
morning. Yeah,
Oh, well,
different context.
I mean, I wasn't there, but I saw who posted. Was that you, Pete? Did you post a photo of all the little faces?
Are you part of the long and the short of it?
Yeah, that's where I saw
Yeah, I
it.
shared it in our Facebook group. Yeah.
I saw that.
How many people were in there?
And what was it?
We had what we're calling a learning lab. So once a month, we're going to do this learning lab where we take one of the episodes and turn it into a 1 hour workshop essentially. In the interest of turning listening into learning. That's kind of the tagline.
Mm-hmm, I like that.
So we beta tested it today with the closed Facebook group that we have. We had 50 odd sign up, 35-ish showed up, and about 3 or 4 had tech difficulties, which is always to be expected. So we ended up with about 30.
And so it's like the Brady Bunch. You would love it, Scooter, because you've got like a screen and you see everyone. It's like you've got security cameras for like 30 people's houses.
It's pretty cool. And they've got people from all corners of the world. So we had Scotland, we had England, we had obviously the States.
Who are the people?
Listeners of the long and the short of it, the podcast.
Do they have to have some particular tech?
They have to have a camera,
Zoom. Basically a URL.
That's software.
Yeah.
And you can have a
actually
webcam.
Yeah, it's like Skype, but it works.
Yeah, I've seen,
it works
I've seen
very.
Zoom.
Didn't we hear a radio ad for Zoom?
Yeah,
Far out.
they're
really cool.
they're pushing hard at the moment. Have they got an Australian team? Do you know?
Not sure, but the origin story is pretty cool. It's this Chinese guy was in a long distance relationship and he got sick of the fact that Skype never worked properly, so he just built his own tech.
Good if you can.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Since the relationship has gone to shit, he's now a millionaire and a playboy.
Well, yeah. Well, he was FaceTiming another chick. Slightly better.
Zooming.
Zooming.
Jeez. And how what was the experience like for you, the person running the workshop?
It was really cool. So this is the sort of thing that Jen and I both do in separate contexts quite a lot of and as individuals. So it was the second time we have done it together. And so we've both known that it works as that structure in that format as individuals, but it was the first time we took our listeners and worked with each other to build this thing. So it was like, is it going to work? And I think it did. It was really cool. So we're going to try and do one a month.
It's great. Scooter, you've been...
I want to do it so bad.
Come along to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah.
How's the studio stuff going?
It's going great. I've been hearing about these Zoom rooms.
Oh, mate, I'll show you all about it.
Are you in a Zoom room, like your end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's a Zoom room?
Well,
I don't know.
Well, no. So this is you're not in a Zoom room. Like a Zoom room's like the hard. Are you getting excited about the hardware? Like you get like the camera and the compatible.
They're installing
box.
them in a corporate facilities.
No.
Like this room, you might make it a Zoom room.
Right.
I don't know exactly what it means.
It's like saying a Skype room.
Yeah,
I guess so, yeah.
I was filming at SEEK yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Someone was giving a keynote there, Lisa Stevenson, and we had a couple of cameras on her. But they actually broadcast it out through Zoom for the whole of the business around Australia. Cool. And I was like, where's the camera? And then all of a sudden, up in the corner, one of the cameras that you have, like those things, and then it's broadcast down, the audio goes in. I think that's like a Zoom room.
Well, this is why we want the big Hisense TV upstairs.
Yeah, we need it.
That'd be
because we need it to be our Zoom room.
Well, like we could. The Zoom room is essentially just the TV and the camera and stuff.
Yeah. So for me, my Zoom room was like my study, my apartment.
What did you wear? Did you think about what you were going to wear, or you just wore what you wear?
Pretty standard from Pete Shepherd, like a black tee, because you can't really see from beyond the waist down. So
was it a thought?
No, just black tee. Always.
Did you get nervous?
Consistent. No, it was all good. Like I said, this is the sort of thing we do all the time. It was just different context, different people, so it was fun.
Anyone doing dating on Zoom?
Speed dating through Zoom.
So what happens?
Surely, Mr. Sevs, look it up, mate. There definitely would have
So the great thing about it is that just random, the way that it creates a room?
So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can so you create these breakout rooms where you split people into like groups of 3, and so you can click and drag people around and like sort of select it.
Did
or
you do
just
that?
Click randomize. I clicked randomize.
And so basically, Pete, what were some of the questions you asked?
We asked a question like, what's something you love about the project you're working on at the moment?
And then he presses the button and we go out into breakout rooms. And so everyone else disappears, they go into theirs, and then you're with 2 other people.
Oh, it's
and you
chat roulette with
Yeah.
guidance
Yeah.
and less dick.
Yeah, no dicks.
Yeah.
No dicks.
No
So we
dicks.
send you into like 12 separate breakout rooms,
Yeah.
and then you can broadcast a message to everyone, and then after 6 minutes, we'd pull everyone back.
Do you
have a
know?
quick chat about it.
So did you realize, Josh, that you were about to be sucked out of that room at 6 minutes?
So it gives a timer. And
Yeah.
interestingly, we had one person that was on the phone and she was having a little bit of technical difficulty. I wouldn't recommend the phone. I
Yeah.
think it's good having your face so
Yeah.
you can be talking properly. It's
Definitely.
good for the dynamics. But because there was only me and I had a lady named Abby from the UK, we finished up quicker, and so we exited the room and hit eject. And apparently Jen and Pete were laughing because we're the first ones to sort of enter into the common area, which sort of implied that we weren't having great banter. And so then I waited.
Can we confirm or do
No,
we
it was
deny?
great. It was great, and Abby and I decided that the next time around we'll just wait it out until we're forced into the room, just so that people thought we're having really good banter. But we just sat there at the end,
Just awkwardly.
just counting it down.
So thanks for coming.
No, it was
fun?
really good fun. Yeah,
Awesome.
I loved it.
Yeah.
But I think, Scooter, you should definitely.
Yeah, I'm all over
This
that.
is a future
Yeah.
Scooter D. We talked about, I think it might have been one of the episodes I've been on around like creating virtual conferences essentially. When at the moment you think about running a conference, the time, the cost, the energy to get thousands of people from around the world into the one place. Well, you can just have a URL and just click a button and like everyone's there.
Is there a marketplace for workshops? I could imagine Zoom having a website where you can go through and find different Zoom rooms and sign up.
That'd be cool.
Like, Sebs, have you found any dating?
Yeah, I found two of them. One's on meetup.com. It gives you a little link. And then the other one is, it looks like it's expired, but it's a virtual online speed dating meetup group.
Would you do the first one that's still around, Sebs, as a bit of a test? To lean in?
You can't say no.
He always says yes, doesn't he?
Yeah, well,
he does.
apparently
That's his thing.
I don't know what's happened.
When you add lean into the...
Is your mic on? Have you
Yeah,
lost-
definitely on.
No,
No,
it's on.
I'm just. It's in Minneapolis.
Did you freeze?
Great.
Oh, wait, so you can't... Yeah.
Safe.
Are you on Zoom?
Yeah.
No, but is it not on Zoom?
No, it is on Zoom. It just says location Minneapolis.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point. I think it could be interesting. Like, there is something confronting, though, about having, 30 odd people that you don't know, and everyone's muting, and Bree's trying to have a shower at the same time and use the hairdryer. And so she was sort of timing that around when I was unmuting my...
That's so funny.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
You're actually talking at a real conference,
Yeah.
like a real life conference this weekend, aren't you?
Yeah, on Sunday. Yeah.
This Sunday, I was going to say.
That's tomorrow.
Well, it is.
Yeah. The U Project conference.
And so, I mean, that's where you've got real people in front of you. Is there any, like, are we going to lose the... Do you think that doing more digital stuff means that when you walk into a room of people, you shit yourself even more based on, or is it the similar muscle?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Not me personally, but I wonder if people might. I mean, it's sort of the same concept, I guess, as people talk about the way we interact through social media and stuff now, or the younger generation, and then they can't have a conversation face to face. So maybe, but I think it's a similar muscle. And in fact, I actually think that Zoom requires more of a flex in the sense that you have to listen, because like it's so obvious when someone is disengaged and it's so obvious when they're on their phone, because you're just like this tiny square or this fairly large square. And so like you would have seen this morning, if someone's completely disengaged, it's really obvious and really rude, as opposed to if you're having coffee with someone and they're on their phone, you're just kind of like, oh, that's what people do.
Definitely.
Do you see anyone on their phones?
No. But the thing is, you are really looking around. I didn't realize there's like a grid mode. So initially I was in the speaker mode where you see Pete or whoever's talking, and then you just see a few people at the bottom, almost like a Google Hangout. And then there's the grid mode where it looks like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
But
and everyone's like looking at each other and so present, trying to listen to what's happening.
but I think one of the hard thing is, as a speaker, like I'm listening for laughs. Like I'm always trying to get a laugh, but everyone's mic's on mute.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so you don't hear the laugh.
You don't hear anything. So you get no you don't get no like auditory feedback.
Do you
so
just
you're looking for
assume
body
that
language.
people are laughing?
Well, that's why I'm very animated on Zoom, because like I feel like people look for body language. So if someone says something funny, I like throw my hair back and laugh. Which is sort of how I laugh anyway. But I think people appreciate it because they get the visual cues.
Yeah.
What's wrong with Pete?
Yeah.
That's the breakout groups. Is he okay?
He actually got us to dance at the start. He's that
Did you?
guy.
Oh, he ran across the Zoom room 5 times.
But you also said, let's do a happy dance at the
no,
end.
that was Jen.
Okay.
That was
really?
Jen. Let's be clear about that.
Okay. So you do the walk. You're comfortable with asking people to walk around the room.
Yeah, just jump across the room 5 times. You got to get up.
And Bree's like,
Check
what
it
the
out.
fuck is Josh doing? Bree's trying to get ready.
I was curious whether you were going to do it. I thought you'd be the guy that just sat there like, I'm not doing this.
Can you?
I lent in. There was something that everything I was doing for you. Like when I was doing the robot at the end.
That's his go-to though. He does it a lot.
It looks so awkward.
It's great for the framing because you're in there the whole time. You're in the box.
Can you do a Mexican wave in the Zoom room?
well,
Can you try that next time?
You could, yeah, I like that.
Everyone put it into grid mode.
Yeah.
Person at the top left,
Yeah.
you
The
grid
start.
changes.
The only
though.
thing is everyone's grid's different.
Yeah. I didn't realize that.
That was my question. Did they
Yeah.
see the same grid?
No, it's like, I think it's based on who appears in the room first, and then it's based on when people start talking, they get like bumped up the grid.
Really?
So it's slightly different for everyone.
Because
no.
for me, I was like near the top of the grid,
Yeah.
for me anyway. And it does create this weird sort of power dynamic that I had to readjust where I'm like, I'm just a big top dog. There was Jen, me, then Pete
Nice.
in my visual thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
this isn't real. Like, this is being spun to me, but I bet you on everyone else's, I'm
Everyone's
at the bottom.
the same. Yeah.
Oh, so everyone's at the top, similar on their own.
Usually you're in the top on
Oh,
your
that's
own.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. Gives you a bit of a ego
But I think
boost,
on the
doesn't it?
power dynamic thing, there's an interesting concept. I think that when everyone's the same size, based on the Brady Bunch view, it actually takes away the power dynamic of like, I'm the big dog in the boardroom sitting at the top end of the table.
Unless you're on page 2.
Yeah, unless you have to
If
scroll
you
across.
can't fit, you're on page 2.
But then if you speak, it bumps you to page 1.
Okay, great.
Yeah. But
What
yeah, you're right.
power
Sometimes.
do you actually hold though? Like, do
Jeez,
you?
that's deep.
Oh, great power one. Do you control who talks? You were saying they were on mute.
So
Do you unmute them when you want them to talk?
no, people can unmute themselves. So you invite people to say, okay, we've got 5 minutes. If you want to hop off mute and ask a question, please do so now. And or we can take people on and off mute as an admin. Because sometimes there's like a dog barking in the background and you mute that.
And it's not always going to be a respectful audience like the Pete Shepherd gang.
Yeah, I mean, my audience
Is it?
is pretty respectful.
Yeah, but it could be
If we got the
chaotic.
Gronks
Could get
involved.
full
Imagine a
Facebook
Gronk
rally.
Zoom. Can you imagine? I think we should do it.
We should
It would be
definitely
chaos.
Yeah,
It'd be great.
Absolutely.
we could do that Sunday night or something for the book club. I thought it was a good one for that.
You could do it as
That's
an
perfect.
episode.
Yeah.
Just put them all there.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Oh, yeah. We could get this feed audio into. Could you somehow get that into Zoom?
Yeah,
That'd be
that would
good.
be
The
a
only
problem.
we can't hear anyone.
That's all right.
What do you mean? Can't hear?
Well,
him?
sorry, they can't.
Oh yeah, sure.
Just with the
mix minus. There's
You
got
could
to
put
be
a little
technical
headphone
way.
in, put it in an
It'd be a cool way
AirPod.
to do it.
AirPod?
Now, how would we do
that'd
it?
be good. Can we get a live coaching session with you and Scooter Derek? Scooter Derek being the client, Pete Shepherd doing some coaching.
Because you want that. You've been saying
Oh,
Scooter,
really?
that you want.
Oh, that's
he
great.
wants to have
Yeah,
Harper.
I'm up for milking all the talent you have on your show to sort my life out.
Yeah, and so you
I'll
want.
swap your historical facts.
Great.
Feels like a bad
Can we do it 1 for 1? All right, great. Just
I'm
be
on mute.
Yeah. So
one coaching question for one historical fact about Abbotsford, Collingwood,
yeah, great.
Richmond area.
Yeah. So would this be? Do you do most of your coaching through Zoom, or would it be?
95%. Even
Okay.
with clients I have in Australia, I prefer Zoom because they don't have to leave their office or room, and either do I. It just makes it easier. Less friction.
No, I get that. Okay, so feel
With a
free
bit
to
of
have
friction here between
Yeah,
our
we're rubbing
knees.
legs. So, Scooty D, what are you working on?
Current project
Yeah.
is, apart from putting air conditioner in Studio One, is building a new studio.
Okay.
Essentially a Zoom room.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What does it
So-
look like?
Well, at the moment it looks like an empty warehouse room.
Okay.
And it's going to be awesome. Big table that'll be like a panel type, like elliptical. I'm thinking of, I haven't told Josh yet, but I'm thinking of going like a American football shape.
We get obsessed with desk shapes, don't we? And look what we ended
Yeah.
up with.
You know what?
Just the most
rectangle.
basic
The word
bitch.
plectrum actually entered my mind yesterday.
Plectrum. Yeah, you can use
Plectrum.
it. We didn't.
I could go plectrum.
Too hard.
Too hard. But American football, so that you can use it as a minimum five person with an audience. The
Isn't
room,
American football just a rectangle, or is it got a?
a rectangle.
No, the field is a rectangle.
Sporty Josh.
It's a brick.
I thought you meant the field. Okay, go on. Because the
you're right.
AFL football
An oval.
field is an oval,
Yeah.
but American football is a rectangle. But you're talking about the actual ball. Continue.
The ball itself. So So you can have a live audience, a controlled live audience of 30 to 40 people.
What's an uncontrolled live audience, by the way?
Is when you say, come on in, anybody. Controlling it is you were saying, like, let's say you're a comedian and you just want to do a podcast, but you need some audience reaction. You contact your people on your list and go get the big gigglers in.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're building a new studio.
Building a new studio and still going through ideas.
All right. And
Got the keys yesterday.
Okay, that's exciting. So what does success look like for the studio? What's the idea behind it?
I reckon the way I always work, I don't know if it's clever or not, is have a dream goal, but work out the steps to try and get there within my bad management style. Right, it's how I got the current studio up and running. You know, the steps would be to make it a multi-use room and rent it out to people. Same as I did with my podcast studio. And eventually I'd like to have it as to operate it as a Zoom room.
Right. So the Zoom room is that big.
Corporates become
Have
like
you
a
ever
Zoom
said
room.
Zoom room before today? I love it. Because if your whole strategy has become the Zoom room, do you think
No,
we strategy
I think a Zoom room is their brand. So I don't. So what I mean is
it's gotten serious.
a live, deadly, like
Skype room, Skype,
PT
Zoom, Google Hangout.
a live streaming room. That's how I'd like to.
That's the big goal.
That's the big goal.
And then you mentioned the small first step was
Just get some people to bloody rent it out for like shooting videos, and so it's going to have, multi roles that you can roll down for different backgrounds and green screen and all that. And see how it goes. I've been pushing everyone, including Josh, everyone that comes near in any kind of entertainment gets pushed in there. And what do you think? Would you use it?
So normally,
You said 40 people. Can it fit 40 people in there?
I just did some maths.
fire hazard, but
You can get that's a later goal, making it legal. But you could definitely.
that's true. Like most things, like what about like
30
the
to
bar
40.
that you had? Was that ever legal?
It was also 20
That's the
years
same
ago.
room.
It was also
That's the same room.
20 or 30 years ago.
That was illegal, yeah.
So where are you stuck?
But it wasn't illegal because no one bought any drinks.
Cool. So I mean, it all sounds good, but where are you stuck?
I'm not.
Well, what's the
I'm
hard
cruising. I'm on top of the world.
part? Cool. So what's the hard part?
I'm 53, no super. Still got to pay the mortgage and come home with some money every week. It's pretty normal.
Ask you
Is
that
he
for
crying?
what?
This is
peak time.
Is
By the way,
this why we're on the same show so you can give me that Apple Watch? Because I heard that's mine.
This is the one you gave to me. I don't know what happened to your original.
It was
Well,
my
he's got
gift
a
to you.
whoop now.
It's my gift to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh well, that's good that you're not stuck. Annoying from a client
No, but
perspective.
no.
That's great.
Oh, look, I will be
It's
stuck
the first
next
question.
Oh, so yeah.
It's always bullshit what they answer, right?
Yeah.
I will
That's
be-
toxic
I'll be stuck.
masculinity.
Yeah, why are you trying to be so tough?
mansplaining.
Yeah,
Mansplaining.
Or the signal was that he said he's got no super and cackled like it was almost a cry.
Yeah. Didn't have that one.
So
There's a lot
ask
of pain behind that answer, I think.
Ask the second question.
Yeah.
I think these type sessions should end with you writing a check for the equivalent of what my super should be at this age. No, the big where I'll be stuck is pure. Where I'm stuck is I can't do that business thing. When I see young people just getting funding and doing stuff,
Who are these people though?
you guys are pretty good.
Where the
You're
fuck
so-
are we getting the funding?
Yeah, I'm just.
All right, you guys are admirable for different reasons. You're not in that getting funding. You work hard for your funding, right? But I just see people get funding. They have an idea, like the bicycle e-bike company that are in back of my building. They sublet off me, and they're just young folk who went, here's our idea, let's get some money.
And so where's the money from?
I'm stuck because I can't collaborate. Can I? I want to. but
So is it collaborating or is it raising money?
Can I? And then before you could answer, no, I can't.
Don't answer that.
Well, I realised Pete was here, and I was like, better be honest. No, I can't collaborate.
Why can't you collaborate?
But I don't know where the money is. Whose question?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
No, this is great. I think it's turned into group coaching.
No,
It's good.
no. This is a nightmare.
I reckon I'll be all right because I do have some other business going on, and it, with the advising with some schools and some technical work.
Right.
And there's a few quotes out there. So I could self-fund the whole project.
Okay.
Maybe, but if I don't, then I'm stuck with this room going, I'm gonna have to rent it out as a yoga studio or something like that.
What do you actually want? Like from a collaboration point of view, I think that part of the we would collaborate more, but it's you're still trying to figure out what you want. Is that fair?
Mm. So remember last time we were talking about how you said, but you have collaborated. You collaborate with Danny on your show. So we do a podcast. I started the podcast. I produce it, edit it, do the graphics and everything. And Danny's on the show and does,
Have you only just started calling him Danny?
Dan. I used to call him Danny in the 80s. Sorry, Dan. And I went,
a historical fact?
But remember when I
I'm
told
still waiting for my historical fact.
Is that a?
But I told you this. So when we decided to collab and I hadn't done this, I remember that feeling of ringing him up saying, Danny, I'm really sorry. I just made an arbitrary decision and I'm unaccustomed to ever having to talk to anyone about that. It's probably why I'm in trouble with my wife a lot of the time because that is a collab, I guess. But
just confirming it is. Yeah.
But yeah, there was that moment when I realized I just decided to go and, try out some advertising thing and put the money in. And he's like, oh, okay, no, don't worry about it. I'll give you half the money. I went, oh, that's the good side of collabing. Someone else is wearing the stress and stuff like that. So I learned from that that it is lovely to have someone else who cares involved in something. It's really nice.
And so why don't you do more of it?
I'm jealous of you too.
Well, but you can do it. We're collabing right now.
Until you start bickering and then
it's a pain in the ass. No, but what's it like if you were to do more collabing, what would that look like?
Well, I don't know. It's not my natural thing.
So is it not natural because you can't rely on people?
I don't know. I guess if I look at the idea I've got for this, say, the Studio 2, and I go, all right, what do I need off someone else? Someone who's keen, who wants to get into it. Is it someone who's going to muck in and build, or someone just forks out some cash? Like, what do I want out of someone?
Yeah, I think what's collaborating?
Are they
for?
going to make it 3 times better?
Yeah, what's it for you? Why a collaborator? How does that help?
Feels good. I just want to do something that is a collab. Do
you just like the word?
I think he likes the word.
Josh told me a couple of years back because I've been loving it.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I just
think, a Zoom room and a collab.
Oh, Zoom room. No. Yeah.
No, so I find the collab thing interesting because I get it but it's very hard to collaborate with someone. You need to do a lot of work internally in understanding what you want, but also like you can't change your idea. I can't. When you're doing it on your own, you can just go from one area to the other. You can like be extremes and just do whatever you want. When you're collaborating with someone, everything, like the biggest amount of tension I have is the annoyance of like, I need to explain myself, which I normally don't have to explain myself. But that's a good thing to go through. Is that part of it? So if you ask for money, what are people going to ask you?
Well, then if someone says, all right, I'll be in that, I've got dough and no talent, then you'd kind of go, well, let's leave that to the last minute and see if I can get through, because you're not going to provide anything except taking half the profit, I guess. And then you think, well, is half the profit of something that's done properly and invested in properly, it's going to be more, should be more than double. You know what I mean? So it should help. When I had the bar, that was the last time I was in, like the only time I was in a business with someone. I was in business with 2 other guys and they couldn't get along because they had completely different dreams. So it was a complete disaster. Maybe that was
What were the different dreams?
Well, one of my business partners was he wanted the bar to be like St. Jude. He wanted it to be a wine bar. He wanted it to be the kind of bar that he would go to and just be really proud of. But that would have required us all to chuck in 150 grand each, and none of us had any money. So it was like, so number one, your dream, fuck it off. Like save it for another day. But and the other business partner, rest his soul, he's gone now. But he was he liked the idea of just having a bar and serving Carlton Draft and being rude to people that wanted a coffee and that old school, because he came from that old vibe.
And what did you want?
Well, I was kind of in the middle. I wanted personality. I wanted to, to make the place where everyone was happy, in which case that favoured the Carlton Draft guy. but they couldn't get along because it was like, well, we couldn't run this bar without Andrew, right, being manager every day, unpaid or whatever, just as a shareholder.
Yeah.
And turning up every single day because we can't afford to pay anyone. In the end, it kind of worked out like Andrew and I ended up, right, well, let's buy Dave out, right? It's not going to work. He's unhappy. So we bought him out for virtually nothing and released him and then sold the business.
I feel like we're getting closer to your definition of success, Scoot. So there's
getting out of it.
There's a question that I think JJ answered really well this morning in the workshop that we ran that I'd be curious for your thoughts on. So I just transferred you $10 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have no excuse around time and money.
Mm-hmm.
You're living in a world with no constraints. What are you going to do?
Tomorrow or in the next few weeks or?
What are you going to do with your time once you buy your holiday house and do all that?
Once you've got the
material stuff,
the original spurt.
What are you going to do with your time? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would probably, it feels like I would run with the same plan.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
But in a building that I owned and obviously much better. But I don't know if I can even own a building. Can you make it 20 mil? That's Collingwood.
You're a greedy fuck.
Sorry.
And so there was no mention of collaborators in that version of the future. So I wonder if there's something there around you being attached to this idea of a collaboration when you're not actually clear in that whether that's what you're seeking. It's just because we get to watch Tommy and Josh and go, that looks cool.
Yeah. Well, surely that would put me straight into another mind-bending situation where you go, if someone wanted to collaborate with you after they knew you had $20 million, right, even though you'd already spent 6 on a warehouse, then you'd start with that kind of gold digger feel and you go, oh, I don't know how my mind would go from there. We'll never know.
Yeah.
But I definitely would, there'd be people around. This is not, my dream would not be to be in a warehouse tinkering with all my millions and making it perfect. Then I guess it ends up being staff, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, so there's a difference
Is that
between
collaborating when you've got.
Well, this is what we've been talking about, the difference between employees and having a partnership. They're very different. Employees, I can tell 97, hey, I think we should do this. And he can push back a little bit, but at the end of the day, he does what we think we should do.
Yeah.
Tommy and I, it's like, okay, no, like we have to sell it into each other. We have to justify it. And so there's a big difference between having staff, having people come in and use your space versus having a partner, I think. Do you think that are you seeking a partner or are you seeking that employee team that can execute on a dictatorship?
It just feels like a bit much to have to, at this stage of life, to have to be, especially if I was rolling with a multi-million-dollar business then, it would be a bit much to then have to be an expert at accounting, an expert at cinematography, an expert at audio. You just have to load people in.
You have a team.
Have a team and then learn off them. Love that idea, learning off your staff.
I think that's
I did that back in the 90s. I had a manufacturing business and I'd learnt all my blacksmithing skills off my staff.
You raise a fair point though. I guess the question is like, can you collaborate with an employee? I think you can.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the whole co-creation thing, right? Like that's the new, I joke about the dictatorship because it's very much like when we're working with 97, he is giving us he's telling us this is how I think we should do it.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a difference in the different dynamics.
Totally.
And what did you find, Scooter, having staff? Are you a bit burnt by that? Like, do you think that all these sort of experiences play into where you are now?
I reckon one of the biggest mistakes you can make is making a vow. I'm vowing never to do this or never to do that.
It's marriage. What do you say? I made my vows.
Do you know my marriage vows, on a side note,
Here we go.
included the line, and I will pay the bill for this wedding at the office, right? Because we got married in a registry office in Paisley, Scotland.
Nice.
It was kind of a little bit of
So it was like a contract as well.
And you run through the vows, and I got to the end and we're reading it. It was like, did that also say I'll pay my bill?
Yeah.
Did they have to? Is it like a verbal contract they got you to read out?
I guess it was. It was
part of
they
it.
put it in
Wow. So you read it without realizing that's what you were
I
reading.
just read it.
Oh my goodness.
You're made for radio. It was live reads.
Let's just read that. Don't worry about it. Oh, okay. But I think
It felt like he really meant it.
I feel like you had a good point back there before your vows, which was like you need to be able to give yourself permission to change your mind.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret what you're saying, which I think is really important.
Yeah, cool.
And so what's next?
Just roll on. We just roll on.
Because
See how
that's
we
what
go.
I find interesting is like meetings or conversations. You can have a lot of conversations, but if there's no clear, defined action, you end up having the same fucking conversation again in a week or 2 weeks. Is there a stage within your coaching sessions where you define it?
Yeah, I think at the end of a coaching session or of like a conversation like we had this morning in that group session, it's like, what are you going to commit to me if it's one-on-one, or what are you going to commit to the group to doing in the next 24 hours? Or what are you going to commit to doing in the next week? What are you going to commit to doing in the next month? Like you can pick a time frame and having them say that out loud or write it down and then holding them to that.
What about for you, Scooter? Have you ever written down, like for this new studio too, have you actually written down what this looks like, what it's going to be, where you want it to be?
No.
Because you give us a version and incorporate things like Zoom Room and shit that we've just set. Like, that's why Josh is saying,
Well, 'cause
have
I
you
can
ever heard
relate.
the term Zoom Room?
Which I know,
I think it's
I know.
A friend of mine set up
You
all
don't
the
have-
Zoom in a big building in the
very
city.
a Zoom Room.
And she told me all about Zoom. And it's
Yeah.
I would start with a bit of paper, right? What's it for? Who's it for? What does success look like?
Yep.
And just answer those 3 questions.
Yep.
Because then it's out of your head. Because I think we do a great job of internally thinking we're across what we want to be doing for the future. But until you're having to tell a business partner or tell your wife or tell, anybody, like talk about on this. I mean, I'm no good at it as much as the next person is. I think it's like,
what's the biggest amount of friction or tension within our businesses, which is like, so that's all good. You can have this thought, but how do you commit to it? Like the committing to it is putting it into the page, because then it's like, then you can also externalize it from you and you can look at it in a different way. So when it's in your head, you are connecting dots, you're synthesizing, and it's getting stronger. Every time you mention it, every time you talk about it, it is getting stronger.
Yeah.
And it works tenfold when you've written it down, because then that's when you can start to edit, and that's when you can start to also make it less about identity and anxiety and all the other things that drive us, and makes it more about the plan.
Which is entrepreneurs creating a startup have the one line of their business, which like that kind of school of startups, that part of it I like, which is super clear on what your business is, the thing the problem it solves, and where are you going.
Yeah, I think that 2 of the most underrated things that we can do, which we're sort of talking about now, is 1, write. And I've heard you talk about before, Josh, like thinking is writing or writing is thinking. You actually realize you're not writing down what's in your head, but when you're writing, you're actually starting to think about it more. Yeah. So I would say that's one. And the other is talking about things out loud, which I think is why so many people get value out of a coach, because it's talking about your thoughts out loud and actually saying things out loud that you've thought about but you haven't articulated.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because what I do, what I've been saying, pushing everyone into that room, sitting here, going on about it, it's sort of partly backing myself into a corner and going, making myself believe in it, really, that I can do it, because it's pretty expensive paying the rent in there just while I make it up.
Yeah, there's this great...
So definitely the more I say, the more it evolves what it's going to be. Like today, Zoom Room was added to the whole thing.
Yeah. Because we talked about it.
Whereas I had intentions of doing it but not going on about it. But something funny happened before. I was doing a bit of a consult just about an hour ago. Funny day, Sunday to do it, but anyway.
No, it's Saturday to show Sunday. If you're going to bullshit the date, just at least get it right. Sunday pizza, these fucking talk. Remember? Sunday we've got my mum and dad.
Anyway, I was doing a bit of a consult, and it made me objectively look at Studio One, which is eclectic and it's nuts. And there's stuff
rugs,
everywhere, records,
vinyls.
It's kind of, I like it. It's clean. It's got a brand new aircon. And
how's the aircon going, by the way?
It's so good.
Split system?
Split system, silent. Mitsubishi silent.
What was
So
the
it can
quote
actually
that we got?
air moving in the studio.
Remember that
all
old
the
studio,
time.
how hot that was?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it was like 3.5 grand.
No. It didn't. It was only
Two something.
$2,000,
Okay, so
$2,200
similar to what
bucks,
you
right?
pay.
Installed.
What hurts when you rent is when they say the unit's 1,000, the installation's 2,
Yeah,
because the installation is
it's the labour.
with the building.
Yeah,
It's not your building sort of thing that hurts. Anyway, I stood there and I'd be telling the client about the next studio. And then I stood there in mine, we're talking about mic stands and setups and stuff like that. And then I had that moment when I probably thought, right, I have to design that room because otherwise it's just going to be me putting things in here, leftover equipment.
Yeah.
It's just going to build up and I'm going to put everything in there before I've done the floor that I want and all that sort of thing. So that was a kind of an epiphany.
I won't have that cohesion. The interesting thing, I reckon an idea is like a rock, and the end of the day, you want it to get to a pebble. And so by having the constant friction of speaking about it, writing it out, editing it, is starting to slowly smooth it out. And I think that you do one of it really well, which is the speaking. And it's the same with me. I'm constantly talking about it, which is doing that. But then it feels like that final polish is the written down bit.
You mean a pebble that's the same size as the original rock?
Well,
With your metaphor, I was imagining your idea was a rock, and by the end of the day, it's this little tiny pebble.
Another one is a broken piece of glass goes into the sea.
Pebbles are just rocks, aren't they?
Not necessarily.
What is a pebble, Sevs?
I thought a
It's a rock, isn't it?
You know,
You're
like
just-
pebbles. I just assumed, this is my understanding of pebbles. A pebble is for hundreds of years have been hit by the water and all the different sort of things to get to a very smooth, almost like a Durango. Dorodango.
I was actually thinking about that while you were speaking about your analogy.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring up the Dorodango.
What if
It's
you
very
started
similar to a
with a stone?
Dorodango.
I have no idea what a Dorodango is.
Broken piece of glass that then starts to be in the water in the sea and starts to soften and form sort of like a nice
Is that what
rounded
happens?
edges. Yeah, that's how when you find a piece of glass that's been in the ocean, it's exactly what you're saying. It's been washed and sort of eroded around the edges.
Sea glass.
Well,
It's called.
so the
glass, yeah.
Dorodango
Sort of
is a Japanese. It's basically
It's a mud ball.
Yeah, it's a
Pete,
mud
that's
ball.
just been smoothened, smoothed out, and it looks just like a ball.
But there's a lot of
But it
there's
gets
a
shiny.
Yeah.
Like you,
Cool.
So you use glass basically to polish it. And so it starts off a bit rough, and then over a long period of time, you end up with this really nice, smooth ball, and you can put it on like a stand or things like that. It's very
cool.
nice. Anyway,
But
Hey,
anyway.
feels good,
But I think
Is it something that does it self-destruct? Like does it?
the dangos.
Is that the art of it, making something that's like a mandala? You know, mandala.
you
You know
just
how
throw that thing against the
Tibetans-
wall.
They do that mandala thing that takes weeks and weeks, and it looks beautiful.
And then
But the whole point is just sand on the floor, and it's not forever.
No, a dango you keep in your,
keep-
your
okay. So it's-
Dalesford home or wherever you.
But I think
Next
so.
to-
What about this?
next to the wine.
If you naturally you go to talking about something,
Yeah.
the harder thing is to write it down and actually.
Yeah.
But there's people that get to the success, whatever it is for them, by doing the writing first and then talking, because the talking is informed by the writing, and so there is both versions. And I think we naturally gravitate to the one that's easy.
Totally.
And easy is to talk about it. But it doesn't mean that you don't find success by just. It's like people who've not worked out the business, but somehow they're making shitloads of cash, and so they haven't got their fine marketing plan. It's like doesn't mean you can't find success.
It's like Cliffy.
Cliffy,
Cliffy was a farmer. You would know about Cliffy.
Cliff Young.
Yep.
Who ran with the gumboots on.
Yeah. So Cliff Young, a runner, a country boy, a farmer, ran. No, can you tell us how far?
I'm finally getting my historical fact. This is great.
Yeah. So Cliff Young ran a huge distance in gumboots.
Good on him.
Won the whole
Sydney
race.
to Melbourne
Sydney
ultra
to-
marathon in 1983.
Sydney to Melbourne.
At 61
And
years
he was
old.
old as
beg your
already.
pardon.
what a weapon!
And so
He
Cliff.
shuffled along.
Yeah. And so
Well, he did more than shuffle, I would have thought.
No, well, he did.
won.
So he had some of the worst running technique that you could imagine, and he won. And he had gumboots on.
So what's the message? The moral?
So the message is that you can still win with horrendous technique.
Win ugly.
Yeah, win ugly.
Yeah, I like
and
it.
so the question becomes: do you? There is a balance. Some people will spend. There are people who are probably theorizing around the perfect run, the perfect. working out their cadence and all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
That's what you do with running. I don't know, pebbles. Or there's just getting out in there and doing it. And so I think that's a balance. I think you are like Cliff.
I'd rather be Cliff Young than
you're
Stephen
scrappy.
Bradbury.
Yeah. What did Brad be? Oh, you don't want everyone just to fall over.
He won by default, basically.
Yeah.
Or he persisted.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's anything.
He was in the grand final of the Olympics. That's the poor guy.
What would be
He got
interesting?
to the
Used as an
Olympics. They
example
did
of
all
it.
the training.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, so
He
you're
won
not
fair and
happy with
square.
that?
Yeah.
Well, so you're thinking that every studio potentially fails, and then yours is the only one left.
No,
Is that the idea?
he won. He was
You
going
just
to
wanted
come
to
last,
reference that.
and
Yeah, I get that, but then you're saying you have to be the best in the field because Cliffy was the best. He actually was the best. He won the race.
Exactly. I'd rather be Cliffy than Stephen Bradbury.
Yeah, but where's
The
Cliffy
best
now?
in the business.
Which
You
is
don't
the
have to-
Cliffy would definitely
I think
be
that's-
gone by
No, but
then.
this is,
Yeah.
I think this is an interesting, like, to continue the metaphor or the story of Cliffy, is like you can win ugly, and so many businesses and people and individuals do. They focus on the short term of like, I'm going to win and make $1 million as quick as possible. And then they completely fry themselves and ruin the rest of their lives. So I'm not saying that's happened to Cliffy, but I dare say that not having any technique is probably not a great idea.
He
Cliffy
became,
needs to
he
meditate.
became a superstar.
Okay, well,
Cliffy
then
did.
I'll just stand down.
Yeah.
Sorry, Scott.
I'd never heard of him.
Cliff
Cliff Young, yeah.
Can you look at who made that film? I think there was a film made. I think it was Dean
Yeah.
Murphy
But
as
so,
the director.
so
Australian
then
guy.
with that thinking, you want the best, you want to win the race and be the best at what you're doing? Or
Yeah, this one. Yeah. What I do next. I'm already the best at what I'm doing right now.
So it's just about
in that
level.
field, but I've always made a field that is so narrow.
Yeah.
Do you think
Like,
the
I'm
industry is
best
changing
scooter
though?
mechanic in Victoria.
But do you think
I
that
can say that.
the thing with podcasting and all this stuff is it's like it encompasses so much. So it's like you think about it like mechanics. There's no corporates that are wanting to become mechanics. But if you look at it now, podcasting is this universal thing. And so all these subcultures are hit. You've got coaching, you've got corporate stuff, you've got artists, you've got all the indies, you've got every different type. And it's funny because you see people, you know, in their suits rocking up to your eclectic studio. Is that, if you work out what your competitive advantage is, like, do you want to create the corporate Zoom room that's all white and that's corporate and safe, or do you want to do you want to continue to be the random dude that you are?
No, I think the flaw of the corporate Zoom room is the white clinical shit. That's the problem.
Yeah.
When I say Zoom room, I mean the technical stuff that's in the room.
And so you want to bring is it bringing
I want it to be
personality?
more like a theatre. But the Studio 2 will not be like Studio 1. It won't have record collection and a Mexican wrestling masks.
It
and
won't
shit
be
like
just
that.
your because at the moment it's like your man.
Well, I call it acoustic treatment. More stuff on the shelf. I think you'll agree.
Hoarders call
Better
it.
the less the reflect.
And the hard bit is Cliffy won a race. The race is very defined, here to here, people doing the same thing as you. The thing about business, it's so varied. Like what we're doing is unique. What you're doing is so that's
It's not
where
a finite game.
yeah, no one's doing identically what you're doing, and so then it's like if you are to be, that's where I think the definition of I want to be the best. I don't know. It's not clear.
No, there's another thing, and that's getting. If I'm not used to being in an industry that's contemporary, I'm unaccustomed. I was a blacksmith, and I was a Vespa mechanic, right? So I'm not accustomed to being on the cutting edge of what's happening in society, right? But having said that, there is a kind of a race against time to get to a point where you're the boss, you know, like where you're a senior in that, you know, like a legend in that field or whatever you want to call it.
10,000 hour sort of thing.
If 5 years ago, suddenly 6 people came from Italy and Germany everywhere and set up scooter workshops for vintage scooters, I would have been okay. If 8 years ago they did, I wouldn't have been okay because I'd got into that, you know, that respected position where they go, oh, he's the old man of the industry, knows what he's doing. I'll go to him and ask him questions and stuff like that. I think that's going to help me.
Has that served
at
you?
my age. I'm not a 30-year-old kind of gun entrepreneur.
So when you've decided to take the shift and you move, like does that that status that you've built in that industry, what happens to it?
It just goes away. It's lost.
And what does it make you think about that status or that game of getting to that position?
It lets you know. Reminds me of what when I was 28, I went and lived in London, and you really going to a complete different city on your own and building friendships and work relationships and all this stuff I think it was massive for all kinds of things psychologically, because you're getting that. There's no historical friendships. There's no. You've built up a whole life right there and then. There's no one that you went to school with and they still being nice to you because you were friends, or there's no family. There's no one else. 2 years later, you're going, right, I really think that I'm okay. I'm not just carrying residual people being kind to me or whatever. If you had any lack of confidence, it goes away. I think if you do well, some people just go home miserable because they had a rough time. But that kind of thing where I've got that same feeling, I totally am really proud of what I've done in the scooter industry and where I got to. But I'm just walking away.
Is there a cleaner, do you have a sense that you want to close that chapter?
Closing the chapter is interesting, and I'm not quite sure what to do because you can't find someone else to do it. So I've got clients that say, but where am I supposed to go? And you either feel responsibility, and I have said a couple of times, look, mate, the $100 an hour you paid me to fix your scooter, I used to fix your scooter. I didn't put it aside so that you'd own me for the next 10 years. I'm not responsible.
Whoa, mate, I was just asking if you can fix it or not. What's this?
Yeah, mate. Is this toxic masculinity again?
Are you drinking?
Come here, I'll shake it out of you. No, but you feel that way, and I did say it one time.
Yeah, but the bloke's my Vespa's still broken.
Yeah.
No, but people
and I'm on the ladder. I can't talk right now.
What you're saying is you're saying no to opportunity. It's like you're saying no to money.
You're saying no to income.
But also that status thing, do you think that people felt that you owed them something potentially?
People think, well, if you're the only one that's doing it and you stop doing it, people get upset. Whether they really are upset with you or whether they're just upset, that's another thing. I'm trying to find I'm at the moment in the process of picking a few people that can do the work and discussing with them whether they'd be willing to do some scooter work and sort of busting it out. The brand I can't save the brand.
Well, because Pete, you always talk about the clear, kind thing, clear is kind. Do you think you've been clear with your clients and the industry?
No, shit house. I really feel guilty.
And so
because I haven't put out an APB. I haven't put out a
what
press. I don't know. It's from Matlock Police, I think. But I haven't put out any all points bullet. I think it's a cop thing, isn't it?
I'm lost.
Yeah, so I haven't made any statements at all to anyone.
What's an APB?
You put it out when a person is missing or whatever, and you want to find them.
Scooter Derek has gone missing.
Like a wanted sign. Yeah. Dead or alive.
Are you sure you didn't grow up in Sovereign Hill? You're a blacksmith. You're doing APBs. Just
a video press release you could probably do.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
But yeah, it is on my list. It's on my list.
And so
when I'm excited by something, it's very hard to do the old
But
thing.
I reckon probably knowing my own feeling with even working out what to do with full stack and all that stuff, like this shit, and even Melbourne Geek, when I decided I'm just going to shut that down, it felt fucking great.
You're still getting hits on the cat versus grasshopper. I watched that yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, the habit, I went from
views.
owning a personal training studio to severing that and working in radio. Sure, I got a full-time wage though, so I was like, but you had to cut it off. There's no more training.
Yeah,
and it's like people dabbling in it. If you're still doing anything, that's the problem.
I put out I've been putting out the information I've been putting out verbally has been, no, I'm still doing it. No, I'm still doing it, and that's just like politics, isn't it? Because they lie and lie and lie till the election.
Is it because
that's what I did?
Why do you think
I wasn't confident. I wasn't sure whether the podcasting thing was going to go bananas, and it has. So now there's a few clients that I'll remain, and then I'll clear it out.
For what reason?
They're my friends.
Okay.
So they can do that.
This is why the question, what does success look like for Scoot, is so important because it sounds like you've got it in your head, but you just haven't put it anywhere, because when you put it somewhere, then you can start communicating it in a clear way so that less people come to you and say, can you just fix my scooter for $100?
Yeah.
You could literally read off a piece of paper. No, sorry. You get a script.
Success for me is
that would be your ARP.
In coaching, do you actually would you write out a plan? Like, do you write this out? Is that something you've helped people with, Pete? Like someone like Derek actually wanting to synthesize his thoughts and have you articulate it on paper?
Not through like a 12-step Pete's program, more just like fluid. My favorite 3 are the ones we talked about. If you can get clear on a bit of paper, what's it for? Who's it for? What does success look like? I reckon that goes a long, long way, because that becomes your filter for all of the decisions that you make.
Yeah. Is
Is this going to help me with that? No. In which case, too bad. If it is, cool. Let's do it.
And it's the common thing too, like Colistade, who founded Invato. He had a 100+ person business, running Invato, and was still dealing with old web hosting clients that he had from like 10 years ago. And so he's dealing with a business that was, doing tens of millions of dollars every year. And he was dealing with a few $1,000s worth of annoying clients. And so, but there's so much value in being able to tie it up, because then it gives so much freedom. I think that's what I'm like, that simplifying process. There's a lot of power in it. All right. It's a daily talk show.
How do you feel, Derek?
Feel great.
Fired up.
A bit of paper. Ironically, do you know what the first thing in my series of tech podcast tip videos that I haven't made yet, but do you know what the first one is on my Trello note? Is the most important podcast tool?
Which one?
What is that?
Zoom.
Piece of paper and a pencil. Seriously.
Full circle.
Yeah. That's going to be a Zoom room.
Listen to my other tools.
Yeah,
Zoom
get
room
yourself
would be
a
great.
Zoom room.
Do you even have pencils?
Buy more tech.
You have pencils?
Yeah, I do it all the time.
What do you use them
when
for?
I'm
mainly?
recording, I write down what's going on.
Mind maps are fucking great. I want to get right back into, because mind maps, I think the other thing about writing is it gets very tricky in regards to, like, people think that it has to be this beautiful prose, whereas like a mind map of being like
Scrappy.
Studio 2, microphones, microphone stands, visual, like all that.
Because no one else has to see it but you. Yeah.
Right.
I'll make a 3D. I'll get
Having
some
said
very
that-
expensive software and I'll make a 3D rendering.
We used to be able to CAD.
Send us a photo of what you come up with.
Scooter used to be able to use numbers
Animals.
and design CAD stuff. Is that correct? Like computer generated?
Yeah, used to design furniture.
Full of hidden talents.
And I'd build it into 3D because you'd nail a client. Like back in the day, if you go, oh yeah, here's what I want to do and draw it in a sketch, they go, yeah, cool. And then you go, watch this. And there's it spinning around.
Yeah.
In the 90s, it was
awesome.
like, where do I sign?
That's awesome.
You get an extra couple of G's.
Well played.
It's a daily talk show. Hi at thedailytalkshow.com is the email address. The long and the short of it is Pete's podcast. Scooter's got Castaway Studios, and Studio 2 is coming very soon.
Yep.
With the Zoom room. You can use it as a Zoom room. Otherwise, see you tomorrow, guys. Have a good one.
Guys.
Cheerio.